We're live! Norty, welcome to another show. The world is crazy, Yahweh is God, and we are live. There's lots going on in the world. Submarines have gone through dark demonic portals under the sea. I guess Mitch Jones is doing Mitch Jones things. The world is a wonderful place. We're going to talk about it all. Don't go anywhere. Ryan Norty coming at you hot this week. And we're live. All right. A little Matthew McConaughey interest. Welcome to the show, everyone. If you've got questions, hot topics, things you want to discuss in the world, as always, questions, comments, always appreciated in the chat. I'm Dr. Rad with my co-host, not a Dr. Norty. Josh, catch us up on life. What's been going on? Clearly, the world has not become any more tame. We'll get into all the current events, all the things that rattle our brains day in and day out. Catch me up on your life.
Not much has changed. I thought today was Tuesday for a bulk of the day.
Early onset dementia. I'm digging it.
It's perfect. And update on the Lego build. I was looking to finish the Lego Pac-Man build that I started.
Yep.
And opened up one of the bags, missing one single piece.
Wow, that sounds like a recipe for a neurotic breakdown.
Like you said, the world is on fire.
I know. Lego pieces are missing from bags. Mm-hmm. Submarines are disappearing into the thin air. Well, I guess into the mysterious waters.
I want to tackle that one more for sure.
I don't know what to tackle other than some out there theories about the submarine being sucked through a demonic portal. But
listen, wherever it ended up, it is highlighting the fact the ocean is a seriously terrifying place, which is why I will not get in it.
That's right. You're scared of the ocean.
I
forgot about that.
Terrifying. It is terrifying. Like, there are creatures that can exist in there that don't need sunlight.
Do you think that the middle of the earth is how like Godzilla swims across the world so fast? He goes through like holes in the center of the earth?
Probably. Who knows what's down there? There's probably tons of crazy creatures that we couldn't even fathom, like Cthulhu or weird
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
You want to
megalodon sharks
me on that?
I don't know. Isn't that some crazy like squid creature?
Cthulhu? I don't even know how to spell that. I've never heard of such a thing. I have no idea what you're talking about.
I don't even know if that's how you say it, but it's a terrifying like sea creature that probably lives in the ocean. Probably eats people. Probably eats submarines, if I had to guess.
So you think they were eaten?
I don't know.
Swallowed up by a giant prehistoric entity swimming in the bottom of the ocean?
All I'm saying is I am not ruling it out because that's what the ocean's filled with, and we don't even know. Like, they could have just disappeared into the abyss.
Here we go. Karthik with the Cthulhu.
There's
wasn't there a boss in World of Warcraft called like Cthulhu or something like that? Sounds like they ripped it off of that.
Probably. I think it's like an old, what was the like horror writer? Oh,
Let's see what we got. Cthulhu.
I think he had stories about
cool pictures on Google.
Let's pull them up. Let's break them down.
Let's get the screen share ready. Hang on.
Let's break down some anatomy here.
Make sure anatomy of a squid. I think it's gonna be a short anatomical lesson. Here are the head. Here are the eyes. Here are the things that are somewhat like legs. I don't have much to offer beyond that. Let's get window. Cthulhu. Oh, hold on. Sorry. Just a moment.
Oh my goodness.
This should be sufficient.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
These things?
Yep. Definitely that ate the submarine.
Oh, look. There's Josh right there.
Getting
ready to get eaten by a giant squid.
Hard pass.
So would you play a game like Sea of Thieves? No, Sea of Thieves, right? Is the adventure game?
That one's fine, but like the one where you're just exploring the ocean, like I'm out. I'm completely out.
The one like underwater exploring the ocean?
Yeah, you're just like swimming around, like there's sharks and stuff. You're like collecting materials. Like that's a hard pass for me.
Sea of Thieves. Oh wait, Cthulhu's in Sea of Thieves? That sounds cool.
I think you get attacked by a crazy...
Sea of Thieves bosses. We need Cthulhu.
I think you can get attacked by crazy creatures. Yeah, I think that's the game. There's some crazy game where you just go explore the ocean. I'm out. I will not play that.
Sea of Thieves. I don't love the art of Sea of Thieves. I
I
thought it was
like
always like a little like kind of goofy for me. But
it's like
I love the
cartoon.
concept of the game. The concept of just taking off on a pirate ship. Subnautica. Should I Google this? Am I
Yeah.
gotta be careful just randomly Googling things that chat is throwing at us. Subnautica.
Yeah, that's the
The
one.
game. Oh, I see.
It's like I'm not doing any of that.
I mean, admittedly, not really my cup of tea, but I
Like
don't.
it's not my type of game, but that also like it makes
I'm
me
ambivalent.
when I think about being thrust into the ocean and just surrounded by all water, terrifying thought. Real or not,
I mean, the
terrifying.
ocean. I'll be honest. The ocean's not my favorite place either. I mean, I'm out in the ocean, like a little seaweed brushes up against my leg. I mean, I don't enjoy that.
Yep, I'm out.
Not really my cup of tea.
I don't
But
do
am I like so
cruises.
terrified I wouldn't get in a boat and go on the ocean? No, of course
I don't think I'd get onto a boat on a lake. That's pushing it.
I would
Like
love.
fishing.
I'd love to go out on like one of those like hardcore like deadliest catch tiny
crabbing
fisher boats,
boats.
like a fishing boat, just like in the middle of nowhere.
And
Like
I like
or a
fishing.
shrimp boat.
I like fishing. Don't want to do it on a boat in the ocean.
I don't care for fishing, but I like boating adventures. Those are fun, in my opinion.
I like boats on lakes. Problem solved. Keep it
Boats
out of the ocean.
on lakes. All right, fair enough. Fair enough.
That's my review.
All right, so anything else going on in life before we drill down on where this submarine disappeared to? I mean, that's kind of been that's probably been the thing sticking out the most to me in today's current events.
Yeah, I mean, nothing from like a life perspective is new. I feel like this summer's busy and hectic, so like every weekend we're pretty much doing something.
Like social or
like
house
social
projects.
No, it's like it's Father's Day weekend. So the girlfriend Vanessa's parents came into town. We hung out with
Vintage
them.
V, follow her on Instagram if you love awesome pictures of vintage stuff. I think I don't know.
That's
Josh,
correct.
Plug her channel better than that. I don't have.
That'll find it. That's good enough.
I'm not a vintage
Yeah.
person. I'm more of a Renaissance man. That's what I consider myself.
If anybody wants to look at some vintage photos of random stuff, let me know. Put it in the comments. Send me an email. Whatever works. We'll get that going. But yeah, just busy with social events around weddings, family stuff, doing errands, trying to enjoy.
Has our number one fan gotten married yet?
No, October.
Oh, that's a ways off.
Yeah, so his is a ways off. Another friend of mine, got engaged in February, and his wedding's in September. So I don't know.
So you have a couple fall weddings.
Yep.
Okay.
But then there's bachelor parties and things in the meantime. So
I can happily report I have none of those activities scheduled for this summer.
Yeah.
Thank goodness. It sounds like my nightmare. I would rather go swimming in the ocean on Cthulhu's back than go to a bachelor party. Not my cup of tea.
Yeah, and thankfully one is not requiring of much travel. One of them does require me to get on an airplane, and I'm not excited about it. But it'll be fun once we get there and we're having fun. But until then,
reasonable. All right. But nothing else going on in life, just a busy summer.
What about you? Catch me up on life.
I'd say no major life changes other than moving on from one job without really a plan of what's coming with the next job. So that's a little bit like, I don't know what's going on here, but we're going to stay the course. We're going to trust God that there's a plan and take it one day at a time. So the next project in front of me, while I have this sort of weird downtime with my life and, being with my family, is remodeling the garage on an insanely cheap DIY budget. So doing everything myself. I'm getting ready to, almost have the garage. Honestly, the worst part of the whole project is getting the whole darn garage emptied out. Since the day my parents bought the house in 2001, and now obviously I bought it from my parents, so the house has been in the family since. The garage has never been actually empty. So it is like years of just trash, junk, whatever. I've just been clearing out of the garage. And then once the garage is empty, it's like, all right, well, we're probably going to need like a ton of spackle, tons of drywall repair.
What are you going to do? Are you going to just repair it? Are you doing anything fun with it, like a heated floor or anything?
No, I'm not going that crazy. So step one after emptying it is drywall repair. Paint. We're just mass white. I'm going ham.
Paint. You do neon green.
No, we're not doing anything creative. Purple. No special colors. White.
Tie dye.
No. I'm not putting that kind of effort in. Once everything's painted, then I'm doing a urethane floor, which is like an industrial grade of like an epoxy floor. So it's like you have epoxy floor and then you've got urethane floor. Supposedly. We'll see how it goes. I'm gonna like rent a grinder, grind the concrete slab, get it all ready, prep it, lay down, the urethane primer, then the urethane. We're gonna make it look top notch.
I'm gonna need some pictures, as always. I'm gonna need some pictures of the updates. But that sounds fun.
That's really about it. Yeah. It's about new paint, floor, fix up the walls, paint it, make it look fresh. A nice industrial grade, chemical proof, spill proof floor. And I do have to build a new workbench because there's really no workbench in the garage, so I'll be putting a workbench in. But
is this garage housing your vehicle? Is it storage? Is it a work area?
Housing my wife's vehicle and a small, modest workbench / tool storage for me.
All right.
As long as it goes better than the shed, we're gonna be in good shape.
What happened with the shed?
Really low. What?
What happened with the shed? Let's talk about that.
Well, the shed looks great. We wrapped up the project. It looks beautiful. I have like basically a brand new shed. It'll probably last me for many years. I'm actually, despite the headache, I'm glad I did it because now it's like I enjoy looking out my backyard and seeing my shed as opposed to like prior to repairing it. I literally just wanted to light it on fire. It was like the biggest eyesore in my backyard. It was like horrible. It drove me nuts. So all in all, a terrible project almost resulted in me being blind, but
that's right.
It's done, and now I'm happy with the result. So
no more wood chips in your eye. No more.
I'm very careful about getting stuff in my eye. I literally have full-on goggles I wear now.
And you didn't get like impaled by like a piece of wood or anything, or hit with any piece of wood again.
So I mean, I won't lift my shirt up on stream, but if I lift my shirt up smack in the middle of my chest, it literally looks like I got shot. Because I was yesterday I wake up to a text message from my father saying, I have an emergency. I need your help. My hot water heater's leaking all over the place and I got to replace it. I'm like, all right. We go to Home Depot. We look at, so you can get a new hot water heater. Like signs everywhere in the hot water heater section. Dial like 188, blah, blah, blah for the Home Depot hot water hotline. Get same day replacement for your broken hot water heater if you call before noon. And it's like 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 o'clock in the morning, plenty of time. So I call them up hoping like I'm going to convince my dad to like just hire the Home Depot hotline people. We'll go get a beer. Like let them come and do this thing. Boils down to like you pay for all the parts. That cost is kind of fixed. And then you basically pay them $1,000. They'll show up, swap the hot water heater, haul the old one away. My old man's like sits there, hums and haws in the aisle of Home Depot for like 20 minutes. And then he's like, we have to do it ourselves. I can't justify $1,000 to have somebody else come and do it. I'm like, all right, like, hey, this is your project. You helped me with plenty of things. I'm here to ride or die with you. Although exchanging a hot water heater does not sound like a ton of fun today, but I don't expect it to be fun for you either. I mean, we're kind of suffering together. But like, whatever you want, I'm here for you. And so it actually wasn't all that bad of a project. But as we're like cleaning up for the day, I'm rolling the old hot water heater out, and I was just sort of, kind of tilted on its side. Like imagine like a big cylinder, you kind of tilt it on its side, you just kind of like roll it down the hallway. I just kind of got a little out of control rolling it, and like as like one of the valves on the side is like whipping around, it like comes around and just blasts in the chest. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I think I just punctured my sternum. And so injury sustained, but we're still standing. We're still standing.
I think at some point you're gonna learn that you're just not meant to do DIY stuff, and not from a lack of capability.
There's no such thing as DIY without injury. It's just not possible.
I feel like your injuries were all very avoidable.
I mean, are they though?
I'm pretty sure they're avoidable.
I don't know. Maybe not. But so far today, I'm injury free.
You need one of those signs behind you that says "X days since last."
How many days injury free? Yeah. That's what Ryan needs on his job site.
We're gonna show you walking up.
We're gonna go ahead and set this one to 0.
You're gonna be walking up to the stream. You're gonna have to erase the 0. Or like
well,
10 back to 0.
On that note, I wake up this morning and I get coffee for my wife, bring it upstairs, bring my own cup of coffee upstairs. I'm looking at Davey, our dog, for those of you in the chat who don't know, our dog Davey. It's like he usually sleeps downstairs, but in the morning, like once we get up and we're moving, he comes upstairs and he jumps up and hangs out on the bed. And so he's hanging out on the bed next to my wife as I'm bringing coffee up. And I'm looking at him. He's got a big old gash like in his neck. I'm like this big. I look at it. It's like full blown like gash in his neck. I'm like, Davey, what happened, man? Literally, we have no idea. We went outside later that morning. We found like a dead baby bunny in the yard, which I guess one of the dogs found and killed. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. We don't get that many animals in our yard. It's kind of strange. But I'm like, there's no way that little animal did that to him. Unless there was like a bigger like mother rabbit that was like trying to like defend her baby and like slash his neck open.
I thought that seems like he was trying to like get under a fence or something.
That's funny you say that. The vet said the same thing. Yeah. So, but I mean, to the vet's credit, he also did point out like, it was a very clean cut. Mm-hmm. Like if it was a bite or a like claw or something from another animal,
it'd be more of like those are gnarly.
Like it was not bleeding. It was like red and it was fresh, but it was not bleeding. There was no dried blood. It was not scabbed.
No, and those type of like you would know if he got attacked by like a coyote or something.
Yeah, exactly. So super weird. It's like and Davey's like a mindless drone with insane muscle mass. He's just like a meathead. So he's probably just like, bro. So anyway, so I had no injuries today, but I did have to take the dog to the vet and get his open wound stapled shut.
Poor guy.
Now, first the vet is like, we could suture it, but I'd have to put him under anesthesia to do it. I'm like, bro, I could literally suture that like in a patient in the emergency room without even like using lidocaine. I would just tell him to suck it up. I'm just gonna be a couple pinpricks. Because people would say this all the time, you're just gonna suture it? I'd be like, well, I can stick you with a needle with lidocaine, or I can just stick you with the needle to suture
you. Butcher rad.
That's the thing is like you get so because it's like you're gonna think there's so many steps to like get the light. You got the lidocaine from the nurse and draw it up in a syringe, and then the reality is it's like, I gotta stick you with the needle for the lidocaine for like very small things that only need like one pass of a needle. Little 4.0 monocryl. Just grit your teeth for a second.
Well, this reminded me of a story. My old roommate fell down the stairs, and he busted his head open. Like I
Wow.
drove him to the hospital, like covered in blood, and I took a picture of him because, like, why wouldn't you? But he got his head stapled,
Mm-hmm.
and so he
Hey,
got his
people
head.
don't give you like lidocaine for
Yeah,
stapling.
he just got his head stapled. But when it was time to come out, instead of going back to the doctor, I took his staples out.
That's reasonable.
And like it was one of the more simple
How did
things
you
to
take
do.
them out? I'm just curious.
So he ordered one of those tools.
Oh, okay.
So and this is anybody who ever has to take staples out, don't start tugging on it.
No,
Because what
no,
happens?
just let the tool do
It's
the work.
yep.
It should
It's not
literally come
it's
right
not
out.
a staple that comes in and goes like this, right? It's a staple that just kind of goes in. Well, I guess it does kind of.
No, it
It
goes
does hook a
in
little
and
bit.
then it curves like
Yep,
this a little
but
bit.
not like a paper staple would,
No,
right? It's not hitting that.
It's
So
much.
it's you don't pull it all. You literally crimp it and it just folds it out. And it was
Yes.
very simple, but I
Yes.
definitely was
Yes.
tugging on the staples at first. I don't think he liked that.
So in no, that would not feel good. So in neurosurgery, like all these
Mhm.
big craniotomy incisions, we suture everything below the skin. So like basically the skin comes together. So there's
Mhm.
very little tension on it, and then we just take staples and just go like all right. So we have in neurosurgery is very common, these huge like
Yeah, I've
staple
seen
lines
those.
in people's heads. And so as a very junior neurosurgery resident, when you're covering the floor and the patient, you're always just taking staples out, just lines and lines and lines of staples. And it's like at first you're like taking your time.
It's
like,
fairly easy though.
once you like when you're in a rush, you're just like, all right, hold still. You're just like ripping staples out at like cyclic rates.
And they slide right out. I was like, that was actually really easy.
Tack on like 2 weeks of like crusted healed blood on like a trauma patient where like nobody's really been cleaning their head and it's just crusted blood that's like 2 weeks old. Staples can get kind of like wedged in there.
I'm out on those.
But like a clean elective craniotomy, those staples usually come out, no big deal. But on the note though of stories related to staples, there's another story I was going to tell you. Oh no! On stitching head wounds. So when we put EVDs in patients, EVDs are drains. Tiny. I mean, it depends. Incision can be like that tiny, maybe a little bit bigger. The incision's irrelevant. It's a tiny little rubber tube that goes through a hole that's like maybe that big. It's very small hole, right? So when you take the drain out, you literally just cut the sutures that connect the drain to the skin. You slide the drain out of their brain. I mean, it's like literally like probably in their brain, like that deep, a good 7 centimeters deep in their brain. You just slide it out, and then you just close that one tiny little skin incision that's like a centimeter long. Like not much. It's a puncture wound. And to give somebody lidocaine for that, it would be like a disservice, right? I'm going to stab you with lidocaine, then I'm going to stab you with a needle. Like, let me just stab you with the needle.
Yeah, at that point, like
just as bad.
It's the same thing, yeah.
Yeah. So when I was like, first month as an intern, I remember I had this very dramatic patient. And it was like, I just remember pulling the drain out and going to stitch it. And like before I even stitch it, she's just like starts screaming. Ah! And I'm like freaked out. And then all of a sudden, okay, so when somebody yells, right, naturally it makes the pressure inside their head go up a little.
Yeah.
Now, I just pulled a drain out of her ventricle. So it's like over time, like the brain will kind of collapse back down and close off that pathway where that drain was.
Right.
But this was for a subarachnoid hemorrhage. So that drain was in for like 20 days. So you got to think like that track that was kind of being opened up by the drain, like it's going to take a while for everything
to repair and go back.
Held open for 20 days. So there's a straight shot from her skin down to her CSF reservoir in her brain. And she starts screaming. the pressure in her head goes up and CSF shoots out of the top of her head. And I'm sitting there as like a second week intern, and I just see CSF shooting out of the patient's head. And the nurse practitioner is like, hurry up, stitch it. And I'm just like, ah! Patient's fine. I saw her weeks later when she came back for a permanent shunt, and she was all happy-go-lucky. But no big deal. It's just one of those funny intern stories.
Oh man, that's like
CSF shooting out of people's brains.
That is an interesting topic, is pain tolerance for people. Do you like, what's your experience with that, like working in the medical field? Like, do you come across people
drastically different? I think most of it does have to do with like how people work it up in their head beforehand. Like I remember having this old guy, and not super old, bilateral subdurals. And he had, the way they had done this is they put like EVD drains in his subdurals, which is not the most common way to do it, but it was how they did it. And so this guy had bilateral drains on both sides, right? But the drains were not in the CSF reservoir. They were basically like in an old subdural cavity. I think he may have had, I'm having trouble remembering all the details of his case. I think he may have had like bilateral cranies and then just had like drains left behind. Anyway, like stuff stopped coming out of his drains. And a lot of times what happens is you can cut the suture that holds the drain down to the skin. Because you have to think, right? You put a drain in, and if you don't secure it, right, it can literally just yank out. So we'll usually like coil it up and like stitch it down to the scalp. So that way, if it gets pulled on, it's like pulling on the skin. It's not pulling the drain out of the head. So this guy, we wanted to back the drains out like a centimeter or so on each side to try to see if that relieves like a clog and helps the drains keep draining. So you're sort of pulling it out a little bit, but you're not actually pulling the drain out of their head.
You're just uncoiling it a little bit to make sure there's no blockage like the tube.
Yes, exactly. But you have to cut like the stitch that's holding it to the scalp to be able to do that. So we pulled this guy's drains back. They start working again. You're like, okay, perfect. We fixed the clog. But now we have to re-secure the drains to his head. So it's like, there was two of us working on this. Like literally me and another resident on the other side. We're like, all right, rather than stick you with lidocaine and blah, we're like, just grit your teeth. We're going to stick you real quick and it'll be done. He's like, all right. And he's just trying to, and he was fine. That's it. Other patients, I mean, you just look at them sideways and they're like, it hurts, it hurts. You're like, I haven't even started yet.
Yeah, it's, well, because like I'm pretty good with pain tolerance, but I think I've told this story before, maybe not here, but when I have blood drawn, I tend to faint or like feel myself like get lightheaded. It's the blood coming out. I can't deal with it.
I used to kind of be a little like that myself. Like not with blood draws, but just surgical things made me squeamish.
Well, it wasn't even
early on in life.
I don't get squeamish for many things, but for some reason, blood coming out, it's not even that I get squeamish seeing it. I just start to feel lightheaded. And I'm just like, I'm going down. I got to not stand up for a second. Yep. And the only other time that I've felt that as well was one was both were, I guess, technically like surgeries, but I was getting surgery and they put the numbing thing on for the IV. And I was like, I've never had this before, but cool. I don't feel it. They like, so they like numbed where they're going to put the IV in.
Patch.
Yeah, they did they rubbed something to where it numbed my hand, so I didn't feel the IV going in. So I was waiting to feel it. I guess I was holding my breath.
First of all, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. You need a topical numbing agent for an IV.
I never asked for it. They just gave it to me.
Sure.
Because
Norty's probably like, my pain tolerance is too low. I need lidocaine for an IV.
Well, this wasn't my first surgery, and the first one, like, they never gave it to me. So I was like, oh, I can just not feel this? Like, okay, like, whatever. But I was, like, holding my breath, I guess, waiting for it to kick in, and, like, I started to get lightheaded. Yeah. And then the other time, and this one, so I had a mole removed on my back, and they used some type of agent to numb that area. I couldn't even see it. And they're just like, let us know when you can feel it. I'm like, I feel it. And then like, okay. And I was like, I feel it again. Like, okay. And then I was like, I'm getting lightheaded. I was like, what's happening? And they're like, I guess whatever they used to suture it up was like a heating agent to like cauterize it. And I felt lightheaded. They're like, just lay down. I laid down for a second. I'm like, okay, I'm good. They're like, drink something. I'm like, I feel fine. Like, I'll go now. They're like, no, sit here. We have to watch you for a minute now to make sure you don't like pass out.
It's not a vascular volume problem. That's more like a
Yeah.
vascular tone problem. Like you're
like I could barely feel it. It wasn't painful at all. Like I could feel it felt like somebody poking me in the back. And they told me to tell them when they feel them.
Yeah, I don't know exactly why.
They said it was common. They're like this happens sometimes with the cauterizing agent. I was like, okay.
I don't know. That's that I don't know anything about specifically. I remember having a similar experience when I went to an ENT when I was in the Marine Corps. I got cauliflower ear real bad when I was on the jiu-jitsu team, but I like caught it early. So like my ear had blown up and it was like still full of like fresh blood. So I went to the ENT and they're like, oh yeah, no problem. We can take care of this. And, you know, they numb up my ear and I'm like just laying there, like kind of like on my side. They're working on my ear. I can't see any of it.
Right.
But like I hear them with like their suckers and they're like doing everything in my ear. And it's like I can feel them like pulling on my ear, but I can't feel them like poking my ear with like needles and stuff. And it made me like a little queasy, a little lightheaded. But I remember just like having to like tell myself like take deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth. But like I would get like a little lightheaded, and I was just like, I will not be the person who like passes out from like getting blood
and
out of their ear.
And that's like I feel it coming, and I'm like I'm getting lightheaded, especially after the whole the IV incident where I was like turning pale. They're like, you need to breathe.
Vagal tone or something.
So even this, I'm just like I'm telling myself, I'm like, keep breathing, like just breathe, you're fine. And then I'm like, I'm getting lightheaded again, and I'm not going to pass out here, and I'm not going to look like a fool. So like I'm going to tell them, and then make sure that I don't pass out as they're like poking me with stuff. But I don't know why. Don't know why.
Yeah. Well, I guess now is a good time to take a break and thank our unofficial sponsors, Black Buffalo, for sponsoring the stream, even though they don't sponsor the stream. Black Buffalo, if you're a renegade Marine like me who loves a good dip but can't stand the thought of ever ending up in an ENT's office with nasopharyngeal cancer, then maybe you should think about trying Black Buffalo. They've got, it's 100% tobacco free. They've got products with and without nicotine. I personally like the Black Buffalo Zero, which is no tobacco, no nicotine. It's all plant product.
Pretty sure it's made with cabbage leaves.
It's you know, it's like an herbal remedy of sorts, I'm sure, from, you know, the Great Plains of, I don't know, Minnesota or something out in the Midwest.
It's made in the Midwest. I think it might even be like Idaho or something.
My personal experience is it tastes close enough to the real thing where, you know what, there's nothing like working out in the backyard with a nice fat lip of fake dip. Tastes good. It keeps me grounded in my roots as a degenerate Marine. So if you want to be like me and be a degenerate, go ahead and order some Black Buffalo today. Be a degenerate without getting nasopharyngeal cancer. So I'm going to enjoy myself some Black Buffalo just to show you all that this is not a paid advertisement. Although Black Buffalo, if you're watching this podcast / live stream and you want to sponsor the Rad and Norty show, we would welcome your advertising dollars and we would happily advertise for Black Buffalo. I got long cut wintergreen. You see, it kind of looks just like dip. Tastes pretty darn close enough where it ain't bothering me. But I sleep peacefully knowing, you know what? I'm not going to wake up with some insane ENT surgeon over me ripping a, you know, carcinoma out of my throat. So anyway, let's get back to the show, Norty.
So is it time to talk about submarines?
Yeah, let's talk about this submarine. I am not convinced some of these like giga wealthy individuals just took off on an underwater adventure and got lost.
Well, so, and again, Vanessa is the one who had told me about this story. And now I did see it pop up on my feed today. And we were talking about it this morning. They're coming down to the final hours of having oxygen in there in the first place, right? And did I see they heard like some banging or something?
Apparently there was an aircraft that flew overhead and heard underwater noises. So based on the reported location of these underwater noises, the Coast Guard may have changed the location of their initial searches. That's my understanding.
Okay. How did it go down in the first place? Like, so this was like a Titanic sinking tour
it was a
or
Titanic
something?
expedition. They took a submarine down to the ocean floor to explore the Titanic wreckage.
Yeah, I'm not doing that. I like why even get into a submarine? Like, what was this guy's? Like, do they do these tours regularly? How long has this thing been operating?
I mean, they're like a bunch of millionaire and billionaires. So no, this is not like the general public.
Wait, they're the ones who went down there? I thought they hired some like tourist group to do it, or did they just build their own submarine?
I mean, I'm sure they hired or funded some expeditionary team to take them.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
That's where my confusion lies. Does this guy just like run tours for rich people, or did they build their own submarine? Because I remember watching some documentary where this guy built his own submarine. Because
I have no idea.
People do insane stuff.
I think that's largely irrelevant, personally.
Well, if it's up to code for submarines, like I feel like that's better than if some guy builds it on his own.
Submarine? Like, are you a submarine lawyer? Do you know the full code? Are you like a bird? Are you well versed in bird law?
Yeah, I know my bird law, man.
You know,
I'm well versed on bird law.
Submarine law.
I'm no submarine expert. Okay, this is kangaroo court. All right.
Mm-hmm. So, interestingly, I saw like a statement where they're like, they said something like, "Oh, maybe it's possible that their submarine got stuck on a part of the wreckage or something." Oh, like, come on.
Like, I vaguely know how submarines work, right? Like, they pressurize and depressurize, go up and down. They steer with some type of motor and propeller, right?
I mean, how hard is it to just send a submarine down to the wreckage and see if somebody's stuck down there?
What happened?
Is that an insane statement? I don't know.
That's what I mean. I don't know how far down it was. Like, was this thing going farther than it should? Because we get to a point where, like, you shouldn't go that far down. Like, probably not even in a submarine.
Has anybody ever found the Beijing flight? Or not the Beijing
The Malaysia?
Flight. The Malaysia flight.
No, man. Bermuda Triangle. That thing's gone.
So, like, just literally nobody knows where this...
That's the ocean. Things disappear in the ocean. That's all I'm saying.
Do you believe there are portals to other dimensions in the ocean?
Yeah, probably. There's probably everything terrible in the ocean.
Interesting. I mean, honestly, I don't know. Things really do. They disappear.
Yeah, and there's those like crazy like holes, like what are those, like, you see the big circle like vortex things in the middle of water? Like, I'm out.
I do find it a little challenging to think that like we can send things to Mars, but we have not fully explored the ocean.
That's what I said. I said we're sending more people to space than we are to certain parts of the ocean. Like, that seems
there's probably a lot of ignorance in my statement there, but
that's what I believe too, though.
From like I don't want to say non-educated person, the non-aquatically educated.
Well, so, I mean, this brings me to another thing I do want to talk about, but I feel the same way. It's like we're exploring space, but we haven't even finished exploring this planet. In terms of,
there's still parts of like landmass supposedly that have never been explored. This was news to me. Apparently, there's like parts of China that like literally no man has ever explored. There's parts of South America that literally no man has explored.
Well, that's what blew me away with that Ancient Apocalypses documentary is people knew this thing existed, but they never really tried to understand it and what it was. And then this guy's trying to do that by using sonar and things like that to see what's underneath the earth. So like, we have so much that is still unexplored or unknown about what's happening here, yet we're sending stuff into space, allegedly, still TBD on that one.
I don't know, man.
But this is another thing, like, and I wanted to get your thoughts on this as somebody who operates in a realm where I feel like misinformation could really have an impact on the medical field. There's so much misinformation out in the world nowadays with the way the media operates. Like, anybody can go say anything, and people can choose to believe it or not without any real proof, right? Or they could take something, put their spin on it, and then people are going to gravitate towards it. Oh, this was said. It's like, yeah, but did you read the whole thing, or did you just listen to that little snippet they wanted you to listen to?
Yeah. There's a lot to unpack with misinformation in medicine and things that could probably literally get me like professionally ostracized. But you know what? Whatever. Forget it.
Well, and you don't have to dive into it.
Do I think that plenty of medicine is evidence-based to a pretty significant degree? Yes. I'm not saying that that's not the case. Do I think that there is a lot of information, medical information floating around where the evidence is kind of like, Definitely.
I believe that.
Now, I think the academic world, right, it's not as simple as like this is either published information or it's not published information. Right? They do sort of create tiers of the type of information. Oh, we've got input from Jill Davis. Apparently, you can go on an Ocean Gate expedition for $250,000 for a 10-day adventure. But are you making it to the bottom of the ocean floor?
Yeah,
Where are they taking you on an ocean expedition?
And for 10 days, I'm out.
Also, it's called Ocean Gate. That sounds like somebody's opening a gate to like the nether world or something underwater.
Transdimensional gates.
Yeah, transdimensional gates. And only $250,000 for 10 days in another dimension. That's
a bargain. It's only like nothing.
I don't know about Anyway, getting back to the original discussion of evidence, medicine does categorize things in like level 1, level 2, level 3. I think they have like 2A, 2B. Like they have different tiers. And they basically say like this evidence is of this quality. And that's how you determine like how good is the evidence, right? I think that's better than like a dichotomous system for sure. And a lot of it is based around like the methodology, like what types of methods were used to reach such and such conclusions of this piece of research. And based on the quality of the methods determines the quality of the evidence, essentially. So if you're not using the most rigorous methods, the quality, even if you reach the desired conclusion, it's going to be that conclusion tied to a lower tier of evidence, if that makes sense.
Okay. So it's like, hey, this is proven kinda, but like the evidence isn't like a hard fact, like pointing to that. It's more of like, we're pretty sure, but we're not 100% sure.
So I think the things that are like truly paradigm shifting in medicine very often are high degrees of evidence, like high level of evidence. And even though probably 90% of physicians that are adopting these practice changing methods have no understanding of the actual data that went into deriving these conclusions, there's still a relatively rigorous body of individuals who are scrutinizing the data to come to that conclusion. But again, these are like the big ticket conclusions. There's tons of like micro conclusions that influence day-to-day practice of medicine that are based on like incomplete data, really low quality data, but somebody really liked the idea. And so they took it and ran with it. And then it propagates over generations because, a lot of doctors formulate their own opinions and things like that based on their experience, but there isn't a doctor out there who doesn't do something or take one of these like uncertain areas of medicine. And well, when you say like, well, why do you do it that way as opposed to this way? And they're like, this is the way that I was taught to do it. Like, I guarantee you're never going to find a physician out there where every single thing that they do is their own individual conclusion based on their evaluation of data. At some
Right.
point, everyone is defaulting to doing something a certain way because that's how they were taught to do it.
Right.
And if that way they were taught to do it was wrong, they're now propagating misinformation. But I don't know. Oh, look at that. The New York Blood Center is calling me, trying to get a blood donation. I don't think they want my blood. I got them anthrax antibodies.
Anthrax antibodies.
So, yeah. I don't know. Take it for what it's worth. But
well, I feel like, and even not just from like the doctor side of things. I mean, I feel like patients may or may not be more difficult based on whatever misinformation they read on the internet. Like I was almost thinking of it.
I mean, that's
lines.
increasingly
like that just has to be a nightmare for physicians all around to deal with.
Personally, it never really bothered me.
Okay.
Because I think if you understand, like if you have a reasoning for why you do the things that you do, and you're willing to talk those through with a patient, you should be able to have a conversation with them and say, like, I 100% respect the research you've done or this or that. All you have to do is say, I'm familiar with it. I actually understand what you're reading. And I agree with, this part, and this part. Maybe I don't, where I think they might be missing the point or missing the mark or whatever is here. And so because of X, Y, and Z other things, this is why I actually recommend that the better alternative is this. Right? That's how I would handle a conversation like that. But one, it requires patience, a willingness to concede certain aspects to what the patient might know. And at the end of the day, it's a patient's healthcare. Right? If they're not asking you to like do something harmful to them, you should be willing to work with them. And I think that's the biggest issue is and I think it's increasingly improving that like the younger generations of doctors coming up, they very much view their relationship with the patient as collaborative as opposed to like an older generation of physicians, which I don't even think there's that many that really hold to this type of idea still practicing. They're very much of like, I'm the doctor, I make the decisions, you're going to take what I give you. That way of thinking is just sort of like,
it's dying off.
Yeah, I don't think it's very common. If a patient's like very set in their ways and it's very against the way a doctor wants to do it, typically the way I see doctors handle that is they just kind of like, I've got this great colleague I'd love to refer you to if they really just don't want to go along with it. Otherwise, they're like, give the patient what they want. My job is to counsel the patient on what the potential downsides to what they want might be. My job is not to make the decision for them. And that's really, in my opinion, really the doctor's role, right? Your job is to give them as much information about what they want, what you recommend, and just allow them to make the most informed decision possible. If in the rare situation it comes down to the patient is asking you to do something that's harmful to them, you can just simply say, like, I can't ethically do that. But if that's really what you feel is best for you, my job won't be to treat you. My job will be to help you find a physician that sees the world differently and aligns with what you want. And most patients, you can't really get that upset about it.
Fair enough.
Julia honestly probably deals with that more than like I did because she has such a specific way that she takes care of patients where not every patient that walks through her door is a good fit for what she does.
Right.
And she'll even tell them like, look, I don't think like what I do is the best option, but they're like, oh, we really like you. We really want you to, treat us or whatever. I'm sort of simplifying things. And you're like, I get it, but like me treating you is not going to help you. My best job at this point is to help someone that's going to align with your goals.
I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah. Whereas like conversations like that were not happening in medicine like 40 years ago.
Right. It's like
they would just be like, I will cut your leg off and you will like it.
And you're going to take all these pills, have it.
There is no consent for surgery. Your consent is my willingness to do the surgery.
Oh.
So, yeah. Anyway, what else is going on in the world?
We saw Mitch. I shared this with you, Mitch
Oh,
Jones.
yeah. Catch me up on
Signs
the
of
Mitch
kick.
Jones situation. I was so fascinated by that tweet you sent me, but I did not have the time to like look into it or really make heads or tails of it.
I read the first sentence or two. So there's a new streaming platform. And I watch video games. I watch people play video games. Typically I watch it on Twitch. Some people are on YouTube for live streaming. Those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
There's a new up and comer that's run by there's some hooligans associated with it. There's some weird things happening on it. It's called Kick.
How do you
Just
spell it?
Kick, just Kick.
Streaming.
I've never looked at it. I don't know how it operates.
Streaming games.
Yeah. So it's supposed to rival Twitch. And I think it's actually built off of Twitch's platform. Like it's built off of Amazon Web Services. Yeah.
Like it looks insanely twitchy.
So and I think they just signed a couple big people, something to that effect. Doesn't really matter. We're both familiar with Mitch Jones. He's a bit of a hooligan.
XQC is playing Rocket League right now.
Yeah, I think he was the big signing. Like I think he got like a $10 million payout.
Like who backs this stuff?
That's what I mean. There's got to be investors. Like the one I can think of most recently was Mixer, which was I think it got bought out by Facebook or something like that. Ninja was signed to Mixer. And like he got paid his $1 million signing bonus, even though he only fulfilled like a fraction of his contract. So like I wouldn't blame anybody for trying to jump ship and get paid, and then they may eventually get paid anyway when it goes under or Amazon cuts it off.
Mixer?
Yeah, that doesn't exist anymore. But that was the most recent big one before this that failed miserably.
I'm looking at the categories on Kick. Their category cards are like it looks so much like Twitch, but like it's clearly not Twitch.
Yeah, I have not even looked at it, but I know like there's little to no moderation happening. I don't even know if they have a terms of service, to be honest with you.
That's hilarious. I'm not gonna click on it, but I bet like their hot tub streams are just out of control. If
that's like
moderation.
That's what people were saying is like that's just what it is. Like people just watching ridiculous things. Like I'm trying to watch video games. I don't need to be bombarded with whatever that is.
Yeah, I mean, if you ask me, this whole like hot tub streaming category, like Twitch brought in,
I think
it's stupid.
Well, Twitch didn't even bring that in, but they allowed it for far too long. And like this is the new thing for those people to make money because Twitch basically stopped them from getting paid.
There's Kick. Can you monetize on Kick? I guess.
I assume so.
I mean, you must be able to, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think their revenue splits are like much more beneficial from what they're trying to promote because that's like the big argument now.
Admittedly, their website seems to be like very
professional enough.
I mean, it's very fast. I feel like it's a faster version of Twitch. It feels like when I click on things, like it goes. Twitch always kind of feels a little slow.
I don't have a problem with Twitch.
It's one of those like I would have never noticed it on Twitch until I clicked on this, and I'm like, it feels like a faster version of Twitch.
It's probably less stuff going through it right now.
Probably that's true.
Yeah. But anywho, Mitch Jones signed a Kick exclusive streaming contract through his agent, but it was KIK, which I don't even know what that is, because apparently he said my agent told me we got a Kick contract offer, so I told him to sign it. No questions asked. Sounds about right.
Hold on.
Yeah.
One, why is Mitch Jones going to Kick?
He's trying to get paid because I think he gambled away like $500,000. So
after like this is another gambling.
No, I'm just assuming he's still broke. I'm sure he's still broke from that one.
I feel like he must make plenty of money on Twitch though.
Does he even stream?
I mean, when he does, but
when you stream once a month, you're probably not making enough to pay that off.
But the fact that like this guy's got thousands of viewers when he logs on once a month, it's like, dude, if you were just remotely consistent, you'd make plenty of money.
Yeah. Accurate, because he's got the personality for it. He's good enough at the game.
Moving to another platform isn't gonna like make his inconsistency more profitable.
Well, and that was one of the most interesting things, in my opinion, is when.
So what
like,
is the Mitch Jones like kick doppelganger KCK?
KIK. I don't know what it is.
IK
Is it streaming?
I want to see what this is. Kick.com. Connecting the world through chat. Live.kick.com. What is this?
Couldn't tell you.
We'll be back soon. I wonder if their website crashed because of Mitch Jones.
Probably, to be honest with you.
Connecting the world through chat. What is this? Features, community plus partners. Like what is this crap? I don't even know what this is.
Couldn't tell you.
I feel like this is fake news, my friend. It doesn't make any sense.
I don't think it is.
This seems like the ultimate Mitch Jones troll. Like,
but he's so dumb that he probably did it.
Brand, though. I don't think he's as dumb as he acts. I think it's part of his brand.
I don't. Because I don't think he's making money off of his brand because he doesn't know how to run a functional business or
I think he makes more. I mean,
how
I'm
to
not
capitalize on his personality.
It, but I don't think he's tanking it as bad as he makes it out to be.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. I don't think he's tanking it either. He still has followers because of how he is. But that being said, I don't know if he's capable of running a business, which is what he's doing with himself, because he just seems like a moron. And I'm here for it. That's great entertainment. I'll absolutely watch that all the time.
Let's just Google Mitch Jones and see what he's up to in the world. Mitch Jones pops up as musician on Google.
My friend Byron's a legend, you know? Well, that's what's so crazy about streaming is some of these people will they'll have a burst, and it's like if you would just capitalize on that and learn how to hone it in, like you could be going strong. But they
live right now, dude.
Is he on Kick?
Oh, I don't even. No, he's live on. He's live on his Watch Me Blink Twitch channel.
I didn't even know that was a thing.
He's not on the screen though. There's just some random girl sitting there. Who is this random girl? He always has like some random girl sitting next to him while he's streaming. That's the other thing. He's so just like no one likes these like cringe sidekicks that Mitch Jones has. No one likes them.
It's so uncomfortable.
People that watch Mitch Jones just want to watch Mitch Jones.
Yep. Because that's the thing is like he created a brand for himself. He is so good at it. It's entertaining, and he has no idea how to leverage it.
I don't know about that.
I'm telling you, like I get it's written all over.
I feel like
the dumb stuff he does
intentionally, just like
I don't think it's intentional.
Strings everyone along because it's somehow working.
You are giving him far too much credit.
Everybody's like coming along to like watch the Mitch Jones train wreck.
You are giving him far too much credit. He's not that smart. That's my assessment of the situation.
I don't know. I don't think. I mean, what you're basically saying is even the level of success that he has is basically just like dumb luck.
I would not call it dumb luck. He is talented. He's good at the games he's good at, and he's entertaining. So it's not dumb luck. He has quality, but like he could be so much more successful than he is if he wasn't just a clown. Like I do not think that's intentional. I think it's how he is, and I think it's to his detriment.
I mean, he makes colossally bad decisions. I can tell you that. Whether they're intentional or not, I don't know. Like I'm just watching his stream right now. He's got some like random person sitting next to him. This person definitively does not play video games. Why this person is sitting there just watching him play video games makes like stream video games, because I'll say right now we are people just sitting here watching him play video games.
Yeah.
Why this person is physically sitting in his room makes zero sense.
And
I mean, I think I understand why this person is there, but like to me, I'm like, if you think that's a good idea, you're just stupid.
Yes. And I think he is that stupid.
What
that's
else is
my
going on in
point.
the streaming world?
Um,
Zaryu is playing Only Up. Oh yeah, I heard about this game.
I don't know what it is.
It's just like a puzzle game or something.
I do like puzzle games.
I think it's like a kind of like mechanical puzzle game where you're just supposed to. Yeah, I mean, it looks kind of cool, I guess. I can see why somebody who plays World of Warcraft would like this game. Not my cup of tea, but it's interesting.
I'll say that I don't think there's much more drama in the gaming world. I guess Counter-Strike teams are making a bunch of moves. I don't know what they are, but it's all in preparation for Counter-Strike 2.
Moving between teams.
Yeah, like the big one I was reading. It's like I'm a big fan of the North American scene for these tactical shooter games, and it's basically been disappearing for Counter-Strike. And one of like the most prominent teams, Team Liquid, that's where they got a lot of their name recognition, is, from what I read, looking to make a more European-focused Counter-Strike team, because the tournaments, the European teams are crazy at Counter-Strike. It is far more popular there than here, in my opinion.
Interesting. That means
I hope it with Counter-Strike 2, I do hope that it garners more of a U.S. interest again and can rival Valorant, because I think it is the most fun esport to watch.
Counter-Strike, huh?
Yeah, Valorant and Counter-Strike are the most fun games to watch tournaments of.
The most fun game I ever enjoyed watching tournaments of was Heroes of the Storm, even though the teams were terrible. If if Heroes of the Storm ever amassed like truly great talent, and fix the game sucks. Like, I will be the first to say, the game sucks. But like, it was so close to being pretty darn cool.
Yeah, they were on the cusp, and they started tweaking it to make it worse. And I was like, "You're going the wrong way. Turn around and go that way." Because I wanted that game to be good.
I think they just had so many good ideas, but so many fatal flaws that they could not. But I think the thing was their fatal flaws were so obvious.
Yes.
That it's like all they had to do was like address them instead of trying to ignore them and create more novelty.
I don't think it was ever meant to be anything more than a novelty game. They didn't take it seriously, and that became readily apparent.
Why would they have invested so much in the professional league?
They named it because they thought they had something again. Like, this is the problem with Blizzard, and I've gone on this tangent far too many times in my life.
Let's hear it.
They have no idea what their player bases actually want, especially in the competitive gaming landscape, and they are the morons that created competitive games on accident. Like, and they've never been able to capitalize on that ever since StarCraft. Everything after StarCraft has been a fundamental flop in terms of an esport, and they don't know how to do it because they don't understand what they're trying to do. Like, they're morons. I don't understand how you could be so wildly successful and squander it and miss out on this huge new audience and never recreate it when you were the one who created it.
So basically, Blizzard is the Mitch Jones of game developers.
Like, I hate them. I hate them. They're too big.
Hate them. Do you hate them because they botched it so bad?
It's not even that. It's the fact they became too big to care about getting it right. Like, from a competitive landscape.
I think that's a valid point. They became too big to care about getting it right.
And they just, because they don't have to. They will continue to print money. Their games are still very good, as much as they annoy me. Like, they create quality products, and they know how to keep people engaged, but the landscape is shifting, and they could have been leveraging the competitive aspect for a lot of their games, and the ones that they tried to, they ruined because they did it wrong. Like, I'm going to use Heroes of the Storm and Overwatch are the two prime examples of that.
Overwatch I don't know much about, but
it's not fun to watch. The objectives make no sense from a viewer perspective. If you're playing the game, pretty fairly simple, but if you're watching it, you're watching nothing. You're watching nothing happen. And that's where even League of Legends is fun to watch, but it's hard to have a fundamental understanding of what's going on unless you've played the game. When you take Counter-Strike and Valorant, you can very easily know what's going on, even if you've never played the game. You're not going to understand the nuances, but you're going to understand it's a competitive situation and the tensions are high and there's a lot at stake with every move, and it's fun to watch, just like any competition is.
That's why I struggle to understand why an arena game, like a raw arena game, cannot stand on its own. Because to me, I'm like, how much simpler does it get to understand from a watching but don't play it?
Because there's 900 abilities for every hero, and even playing the game, you can't visually understand what's going on.
Yeah,
90% of the time.
That's the problem with the existing game.
No,
why can't you take a standalone game and address those issues and have it be successful? Like one of the things I wondered, like why was like Battle Right? Battle Right failed as a video game, I believe, because of the way they chose to implement mechanics. It was not a fun way to play a video game.
Well, that's the thing is you need to. It's a unique challenge because first and foremost, you have to create a game that people want to play and is engaging from a player perspective.
Yeah.
Adding the layer of making it fun and easily understandable to watch is something that League of Legends built the blueprint for. And because they realized like, oh, we're going to make this a gaming league, all of their visual updates have implemented changes so the viewer can understand what's happening without ever having to play the game. Like there's big things that pop up. It's more intuitive than it ever was. It's still a little complex for somebody who's never played it, but it built a foundation of how to implement those things going forward. Games like Valorant came out to compete with Counter-Strike. It's doing a very good job.
I haven't seen Valorant. Let me pull it up on Twitch.
I've been telling you to watch it to at least have an understanding of what I'm talking about.
So I was going to bring up this point that one of the things I love or I think is missing in the like video game viewership category is like I don't want a user interface. I don't want to require a user interface to watch it.
What do you mean?
Like if you're watching a game of League of Legends, you see like blue team on the left, red team on the right, whatever, health bars for all the different characters. I don't want to see that stuff as a viewer. Like I don't want what I see on my TV to look like a video game. I want it to look like something I'm just watching.
And that's something where, again, that's a hard one because people do want to see the point of views, but there's obviously times where they'll cut to like an angle that's an overhead camera.
Yeah.
Right. And Counter-Strike and Valorant do that. They don't do it often, but they will do it. But a majority of it's going to be from the player's perspective. But there's I think there's less UI going on. It's a very uniform UI as they switch back and forth, unless they actually tap into like
you see all the talents and stuff below hand in the middle.
I don't think you see any of that. I don't think you see. Maybe. You might see the health bars. I don't know if you see the abilities.
I don't even want to really see player health bars. Honestly, I just want to see the camera.
You kind of have to know like what the stakes of the certain situation are.
That's exactly what I'm getting at. Right, you have the game field, and then you have the information presented around the game field. I don't want to have to take information that's being presented around the game field and piece it together to understand exactly what's happening in front of me. I want to be able to look at what's happening in front of me and understand what's happening.
And that's kind of my point is with Counter-Strike and Valorant. I think those are the most where you don't have to look at anything other than what's going on. Like you don't have to take in any of that information and you can understand what's going on.
Maybe that's why I was pulling up Valorant on the side, because I kind of wanted to see like what the sort of like viewer UI is like, because I think that's the big difference between traditional sports and video game sports right now.
100%.
Like if I watch football or watch soccer, there's really the only information I really need to gain from the UI, the information presented around the game, who's winning, who's losing, who has the ball. And even who has the ball, I can see from the game itself.
Right.
So really, who's winning, who's losing. That's it. And maybe how much time is left in the game.
And that's how this, like, it's round based, right? So it's the first to win X number of rounds in each game. Like, you can easily see that at the top of the screen if you just look at that. and then watch the players, you're going to have a fundamental understanding of what's going on. And I think
exactly.
that's why those
Whereas,
two.
like, I feel like when I watch League or something like that, like
It's very hard to tell who's winning and who's losing.
Well, yeah, you have to follow it over the duration to really understand who's winning, who's losing. And I'm not looking at the game to like determine who, like, let's say who even won a team fight. It's like the team fight breaks out, you kind of like enjoy all the action, and then you're kind of like, wait, what was the outcome of that? And then you look at the sidebars and you're like, oh, they have 3 dead, they have 1 dead. Okay,
and you have to look.
One.
You have to look at the gold or find where the gold is. And that's where you have to have a fundamental understanding, and that's why I've tried to get you to at least watch some of Valorant to understand that. Maybe I'm a crazy person, but they do have their international tournament going on right now. That would be find some time to watch a replay of it.
International tournament.
And just, I want to know your thoughts. Like they do the rebroadcast early in the mornings. I think the live streams, because they're in Tokyo, I'm pretty sure. I think it's at like 10 p.m. here. I'm not staying up that late.
Yeah. We all know you go to bed at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
That is correct. But I would just take a look at it. Love to get your thoughts. That's my opinion on what makes an esport successful is how fun it is to watch.
This is interesting. Diablo 4's viewership has dropped dramatically since launch.
I can tell you why that's happening too.
Oh yeah, give me the Diablo updates. I'm curious.
Yeah, Diablo's. So people are they had a very successful marketing campaign for people streaming it, and also for people to build hype around like the first people to hit level 100 on hardcore mode. So, but one of the things they did that I actually thought was a very good thing to do to get people interested in the game and watching it and engaging with people streaming it. 2 things. If you're a Twitch Prime member and you watch certain hours of Diablo content, you get free stuff. People love free stuff. That's smart, and it's going to make them check out your game at least a little bit. The other thing, I thought this was unique, is you get access to a mount if you gift 2 subs to a streamer that's qualified. So now you have to check out a streamer, you have to give somebody else subs so they can partake in it. It was a very mutually beneficial partnership with Twitch, if you ask me. So that's starting to taper off because I guarantee you people have already collected their free loot from the hours watched. And I think they're kind of fatigued from doing that. And on top of that, the season for their season pass hasn't even started yet. And I'm sure people are going to do some type of speed runs to be the first to max out the season. So it's burnout because of the way they did it, but I thought it was a good idea. But the hype's dwindling in terms of like a viewership number. And with it not being a competitive game, those numbers are going to drop because people like watching competitive games or people that are entertaining, which is typically easier for people to be entertaining in a PvP environment, if you ask me.
I mean, yeah,
because
I agree with that.
For a single player game, story is going to be what it's going to be. It's very hard to make that more engaging unless people just want to see a playthrough. PvP, endless engagement. Esports brought to you by Norty. What up?
So that's our esports / video game update. As always, video games melting your brain.
And this is stuff I have put far too much thought in for somebody who does not operate in that space. So,
we all know you don't have a real job anyway.
Also true.
So this is what Norty does with all his time. On that note, we're past the hour. Any closing topics of discussion, thoughts, anything we should bring up? Anything burning we need to get to?
Hope they find the people in the submarine. Honestly, I hope they find them miraculously.
Going back to the submarine topic. Yeah. They say there's like, I don't know what, I guess like today's their last day of oxygen or something like that.
Yeah, the odds are so low.
Show up alive past their oxygen expiration date. We know for a fact they were sucked into a demonic portal in the bottom of the sea.
That's true.
They're being probed by Satan.
Also a possibility.
Satanic aliens are probing them.
I do hope they find them. Anybody interested in esports or checking out what I've been rambling about for the last 10 minutes, check out Valorant. You need to check out Valorant while the tournament's going on so we can recap it next week. And those are all my thoughts.
I started listening very little bit to a podcast talking about the CIA's mind control program.
Oh,
so
you did send me that clip.
I am starting to dig into like MK Ultra and all this stuff in preparation for that dedicated episode. It is coming. Do not think that we have forgotten, but we want to make sure that is an episode. I want to make sure we take plenty of time to dig up dirt, information, and conspiracy.
I need to take some notes. I need to write down thoughts around the stuff you've sent me for it, because that is going to be
yes.
It's
that will be an episode we do not just ramble on without any sort of prep time put into that. But
calculated rambling.
We're going to get into the CIA and MK Ultra and all this crazy stuff eventually soon, like next week or so. I have confirmed we're going to have Special K, Karthik, Dr. Krishnan on the show July 12th. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but it's always a good time talking to my man Karthik. So I'm sure we will talk about all kinds of interesting things. So yeah, definitely don't miss any of those shows. Catch us back next week, Wednesday, 7 p.m., our usual time. We're going to be seeing what's going on in the world then, figuring out how it affects your brain, the environment that your brain lives and works in. And you know what? Don't forget, ask God for a little strength each and every day. Keep your mind sharp. Don't get distracted by the craziness of this world. It's all in your head. Sort of. Kind of.
Enough. Yeah.
All right. On that note, have a great night, everyone. Rad and Norty, we're going to get back to work prepping for next week's show. We'll see you next week.